Welcome, everyone, to This Moment and the Diamond Mother Ring by Caroline and Lisa. Welcome, everyone. It's Caroline and Lisa here with the Feminine Force Field, and we're here to illuminate the core of the feminine force in the women all around the world. And tonight we have Lisa has her little story to share with us tonight. Lisa, so what have you been thinking? What have you been reflecting on, and to share with us your little life story?
Yeah, well, I had a few thoughts, but I was laughing at myself before because I pressed the button for the video. And did you see me laughing at myself? I was like, oh, come on, Lisa. I was so excited. I was like this little kid in the candy store, and I missed my moment. But anyway,
You're fine. You did a brilliant job.
I want to share about the difference, a story about what it was like before I actually really understood my emotional world and got into my feminine force, and how it really changed me, because I've been blessed to have that experience, actually raising children and living in a relationship where really I was in emotional reaction all the time, and I was in these dynamics of relationship. And what the dynamics created was conflict, because I didn't understand my emotions well enough to actually be able um, to express myself, and to trust myself, and to create a different version of the life that I was living. So what I used to find all the time, and there was this repetitive feeling of powerlessness. So even with my husband, like, we'd get along okay for a while, and then we'd have this conflict, like it was almost like all the things would be all right, and then they build, and then we'd have this total conflict. And the way that operated for me was, the love was withdrawn. So all of a sudden I felt there was no love there. It was like, and that's what it used to feel like to me. It was on again, off again love, right? So sometimes there was love, sometimes there wasn't. And actually in that, you can't feel emotionally safe, right? You can never fully ever really let your guard down, because you have to be something other than what you are to be loved. And so, of course, because I was in that dynamic with my children. So when they were behaving, and when they were, like, being okay and doing what I wanted, and I was feeling comfortable around who they were at the time, there was love and affection. And I mean, there's always love in a way, but it's almost like there's an energetic withdrawal of love, and you don't realize that you're doing it. So when something happened and I found it really hard to handle their behavior, my reaction was to, like, you go like this, and you're angry at them, or you're frustrated at them, or you're feeling powerless. And for them, it would feel like a withdrawal of love. So essentially I was doing to them unconsciously what my partner and I, because I'm sure I must have been doing it to him too, were doing. And then what happens, because the love, like the real love, is on again, off again, and you can't stay in that place of acceptance and understanding, there was so much conflict. Like, there was so much conflict, and there was so much anger, like my husband was angry, my boys were angry, and, like, I'm not an angry person. So, and when I say that, I laugh, because I can be incredibly angry these days. Like, anger can rise up in me, and I can express that if I need to. But back then it was something that I totally suppressed in myself. And so I was a very peaceful, calm person. And so the conflict used to make me feel like I used to hate it, like I just wanted to keep the peace, and I didn't want to tread on, I felt like I was walking on eggshells sometimes. And all of that was that old dynamic, which just created conflict. If I felt powerless, I felt more reactive. And so there was conflict. And I never knew the words to use to actually, well, first of all, I wasn't aware of what was really going on. I thought it was about the event. But second of all, I had no education around the words to use to express how I felt so that I could actually move through things without conflict, you know. And I've since learned, like when I look back, I think, well, you know, I was a good person. I was a good mum. I was doing the best I could do at the time. So I don't sort of bag myself out about that. But when I look back, I think, wow, all of the conflict that existed in my life and all of the stress and all of the strain, you know, it was all because I didn't have this awareness. You know, I was operating in this other version of myself, which was not in my feminine force. And, you know, and now I get to compare the difference. Now I get to compare what it's like when I can turn up for my child, and the love is always given. So the love never comes and goes because I don't need it to come and go to feel better.
Yeah.
I feel so assured in, like, when you're in the feminine force, it's like, it's okay, I'm already loved. They can do whatever they want, and it doesn't impact how I feel about myself. And so that security means I can always show up with love. You know, my daughter can be whoever she is, and I don't have to judge her. I don't have to freak out. I don't have to feel less than or inadequate or whatever it is, because I can sit in that feminine force. And yes, there was a journey, right? So the journey between what I was and what I am now was the building of that muscle, you know, because it really is a building of a muscle. Like, it's applying the same keys each time until and building my awareness each time until I can get more and more in that place of it's just there. And there doesn't need to be conflict. You know, it doesn't mean that I don't get angry, but the way I express my anger is not through conflict, you know. And it also means that sometimes conflict occurs because I'm in my feminine force and I have to share what I feel, and I share it owning my own stuff. And that can create a conflict situation, right? But a conflict situation is just a situation where two people aren't seeing the same thing, where we have a different perception. And now I'm brave enough to stay in that moment and keep talking and keep working on it and keep sharing and keep understanding what's going on. Like, share with me your perspective, because maybe, you know, I'm not seeing things correctly, or maybe I could see things with a little bit more awareness, or, you know, so I'm brave enough now to, you know, if there is a conflict situation that's been created, like, I'm in there. I don't have to freak out. I don't have to fear the conflict. I can just be there with love and hold the love, and that person and I can work it out. And so, yeah, conflict situations arise, but my life doesn't have conflict in it because I know that I can step into a place where I can find my strength and my peace in that, and I can keep feeling the love, whatever happens. And that means that I create emotional safety for everyone around me, especially my daughter.
Yeah, that is amazing. Absolutely fantastic. And I have loads to say about that, actually.
Yeah, good.
Because
good.
the first thing I'd love to say that actually it's amazing how we feel that when conflict arises that we think it's in the external world. But as you talk about, when you really kind of step back into your feminine force and your awareness, that where's that conflict is always within yourself. So the conflict within yourself was, you know, the love, and then actually the feelings that you were trying to suppress. You know, so you were going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth all the time. So the conflict is actually within yourself, because instead of it was the fact that you weren't staying with the uncomfortable feeling and you were trying to move away from it, that was causing this kind of seesaw back and forth conflict within yourself. So nothing's been resolved. The dynamic on the outside wasn't actually being transformed in that moment. So, like, it's a transformational moment rather than a conflict moment when you kind of you step into it and you stay with it. You know, in that process, in that emergent design process, it turns into a transformational moment rather than a conflict. You know,
moment. That's right.
You're moving away from that. You know, moving away from the conflict into a conflict-free home, as we were posting today about. So, you know, it's using those moments as kind of a transformational kind of gift, nearly, you know.
Can I just share too? You're absolutely right about it being inside of me, because I had the awareness that every time I unconsciously withdrew the love, I was actually withdrawing the love from myself. It was almost like, because that's right. I had shut down in that moment because of what was happening. I'd shut down my connection with who I was. So I'd shut down my connection to the love that was me, the love that was inside myself. And because I'd withdrawn the love from myself and I'd stepped away from my feminine force, I was withdrawing it from the outside as well. So yes, that's beautiful.
That's exactly it. Because when you put a wall up, you know, you might be blocking the other person coming in, but you're also blocking the love that you're going to receive. So you can't, you know, that kind of, you know, that eternity sign is like, you know, the movement of the flow of life. And it is like the flow of love, really, when we're in that relational space, you know. But you can't relate to somebody if they're putting up boundaries. If you're trying to protect yourself from that conflict and you're not being with the conflict, then you can't receive the love either. So that's the breakdown in the relationship then, isn't it? And you have to break that dynamic, and you have to just be present with being, you know, in that, you know, it feels uncomfortable. But if you let it, if you just be with it, you realize that actually it's just an energetic thing that you can release, you know, and it allows you to transform in the moment, you know, in that moment. So it's a moment of growth, you know. And the other thing I wanted to say was, actually, it was funny how what you talked about there about walking on eggshells and using love in a conditional way. Because in the poem, the book that I have, Declare Republic, A Free State of Mind, I have a piece about that at the end. It's kind of a summary, really, about basically that. So as I see it, that in society we mix up our, you know, when our focus is all on economics, we kind of have that mindset and we actually apply it to our relationships. So we use love as a commodity, you know. So we're either giving or we're taking away, you know, as we see fit. So we use it transactionally. So we're not, you know, where love is always abundant, it's always present. It should be always flowing, always present with us. But when we're not, you know, when we're using it as a kind of a weapon nearly as such, but we're taking away when we feel somebody's not deserving of it, we kind of put somebody in a deficit. And then eventually when you do that, you can end up bankrupt completely, you know. And then, you know, there's no that abundance in life, kind of, in that richness and that rich feeling of kind of beautiful, loving relationships in our life can't be present, you know, because of that, you know. So like, I suppose if we see love as our main commodity and we use it in a way that's, you know, that's always, you're giving it, you know, freely, you know, because you have that abundance, like a well within yourself, that you can always, you found at the source of it, you know, kind of thing, is within you. And like before, in the very start of the story, you were talking about how, I suppose, you were always looking from the outside. You were looking for love outside of yourself, and you were looking for it in your husband or in your children, whatever. But when that was taken away, then you were feeling like you didn't have it. You know, that kind of way. So it's just so like finding the well within yourself, and then also not being afraid of that kind of that being aware that conflict is always within you. You know, it's not outside.
Yeah, and it's sort of like I want to use the word power, because that sort of describes that dynamic. So it became this power play, right? So for him, it was like the power that he had over me was love. So when he took that away, I felt powerless. So I had to find another way to get my power back. So I probably had strategies in place that would make me feel that power again. But the thing was, that power was always in me. It was like you say, now it just is in me. It doesn't go on and off. It comes from me. And that for me is that's true power, you know. And it's like, and the feminine force, you know, like, because power is a word that's been a little bit corrupted. But for me, a lot of the dynamics are based on that power, because we're not taught how to get in touch with our true power. So we're looking for ways all the time to feel empowered from the things that are happening around us. And that makes us feel very unstable and very insecure. And it's a thing that can come and go. So we're feeling powerless or empowered, you know. And it's like, the solution is to come back to your feminine force, right? And that way it's always there. You're not relying on anybody else to show up.
Yeah, exactly. It's not on the external, it's not an attachment, you know, you become attached to things on the outside of
Yeah.
you. It's detaching from that and like finding the spring, you know, it's like the spring within. Yeah, like it takes awareness for that to, but I suppose your practice, you know, of, you know, constantly showing up in that way, did you find that got easier over time?
Oh, absolutely. Because I actually feel it's our natural way. I feel
Yeah.
that that way of conflict is not natural for us,
Mm.
which is why it feels so uncomfortable. You
Mhm.
know, but for me, it just started with, oh, I heard a story and it was like, oh, actually, there's another way to do relationships. And so I started to think about it and I'd reflect on my behavior and I'd reflect on other people's behavior. And that awareness grew. And then I practiced just taking a pause, like when I was about to react, like my thing was if I could just in that moment, just pause for a moment and feel my body and just do something different, like really pay attention to what was going on in me.
Yeah.
That was really helpful for me. And, you know, and over time, it becomes something you don't even think about. But at first, you do have to have discipline around the way that you react. Like you have to try and step out of the reaction.
Yeah, amazing. That's
Mm.
fantastic.
Yeah,
I hope everybody's
so
got
good.
great value from that. And we're actually going to be live again in at 8 o'clock. So if you want to jump over to the Mental Health Warriors, I have a weekly podcast there about called Words as Medicine. And Lisa is going to be my guest tonight. If you want to get the background story on Lisa, and she's a free couple of gifts that she wants to give away as well. So if you want to tune in there on the Mental Health Warriors on Facebook or MH Warrior TV on YouTube, we'll be
And
live.
that's in 13 minutes.
Yes, so
13
we better
minutes.
go. Thanks everybody for listening, and
Thanks
we'll
for
see
listening,
you
everyone.
tomorrow. Bye.
Bye.